But yeah, I mean, like that's the same. Well, GameStop was trying to do phones themselves for a long time too, because they're trying to get that. Yeah, I mean, like that's the same. Well, GameStop was trying to do phones themselves for a long time too. Mixer. There we go.
Well, and I did actually make a purchase from GameStop just in the last month. Nico released these really cool 5 or 6 inch. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys that look exactly like the 90s movie.
Oh, nice.
And they were like $21 a piece, and like they're allegedly, like their original way they released them was in this giant case that looked like the VHS case for the tape, but that immediately sold out and I didn't get it. And then they announced GameStop would have them all individually, so I just ordered them there, and they look freaking awesome, and I haven't decided if I'm taking them out of the package yet or not. But
yeah.
But even still, like GameStop's website sucks. Like,
oh my gosh,
their search especially.
It is. I never like. I'm signed up to pre-order things through GameStop's website in like 2 different ways, and I don't understand which way is what or what's connected to what.
Yep.
And so whenever I pre-order something from them, I'm always really confused about which account it's going to and if I can edit it, and nothing I pre-order seems to be available for store pickup, despite me ordering it a half year in advance.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
I have that same problem with EA. For some reason, I have like 2 emails with EA, or I have like an Origin account that's tied to, I don't know. And like I've like gotten on the phone before with them trying to like resolve this. I'm like, can you just kill this account and just transfer like my that information there onto this one that has all my purchases on, so that way I can get it all in one location. Like, I don't care what's purchased on that other one, you can keep that. Kill that account. Like, it's dead to me. I want this account with all the information on this account, so that way I don't keep logging into the wrong one. And it's like they don't know how to fix it, and I'm like, I hate you, EA, sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of times. But yeah, that's a minor inconvenience, so.
Ugh.
No thanks. All right, you guys ready to kick this thing off?
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Basta, and joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
And Mina.
Hi.
Let's just dive right into it. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
I've been playing a handful of stuff, actually. I feel like I've been incredibly busy, but I've somehow managed to fit a few things in. So the first game is something I think I desperately needed in my life.
Okay.
And that is Phantasy Star Ages. I picked up for like $8 on Nintendo Switch. This is the first Phantasy Star game, but they have added an auto mapping feature, so you can see the map on the side of the screen.
Right.
They lowered random encounters, and they give you more golden experience for battles.
Nice.
Which makes this, like, this game is ancient. Like, if you've never seen or played it, like, it is like in the, like, I don't know, Ultima. When did Ultima stop being text? Like Ultima 3 or something like that?
Yeah.
And, like, it is almost that. Like, you have a little overhead person that goes somewhere. You have 2 buttons that are functional in the game.
It was a Master System game, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like Megami Tensei, like Shin Megami Tensei, like the first ones where it's like a first-person dungeon crawler, right?
Yeah. That's how all the dungeons take place. And then all the towns are an overhead view, like maybe Wasteland is a better comparison into where this is technically. Because I think Wasteland does that too, but I could be wrong. Maybe Wasteland's always overhead. Anyway. So this game stars Alice is your beginning character. Her brother is killed by King Lasik, which makes for lots of really great puns during the...
Yeah.
It's like Lassic. Like, I get they were probably going for something with laser or something, but like you just get... I think I posted it to my social media where someone like, I should have looked it up before this. It doesn't matter. They're good LASIK surgery puns in the game.
Right.
So the first, I think it's the first character I got, was a huge surprise because I know nothing about Phantasy Star 1. And that is a character whose name is spelled Myau. I assume it is pronounced meow because it is a cat.
Awesome.
It is some sort of space cat. They describe it as a beast, and then you randomly trade for it, and it is kind of your... They don't have a thief class in this game, but it kind of fills the role of a kind of a healer and buffer type character. Mm. Then you get Odin, who is a white, short, blonde-haired... like, he looks like Duke from G.I. Joe, just about. Like, he's not what do you expect with the name Odin. And then you get Noah, who took me... I'm just not sure what Noah's gender is. I'm not going to judge him or her for whatever he may or may not be. But he's your mage. He or she. It is your mage.
David Bowie is your mage.
That person is your mage, yes.
Right.
I'm trying to be polite, not...
When did this come out, on the Switch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's great. You can save anywhere. It was just a nice thing to turn off my brain. Like, I opened up an FAQ just to kind of get the loose beats, because, like, a lot of the puzzle solving would be go to the end of this dungeon, and they won't let you in unless you go to the end of this other dungeon and get this item and trade it to someone. Boy. And like, they have one of the things that surprised me is you go in a dungeon to find, like, at the bottom level or whatever, there's a bakery, and you have to get a sweet treat as a gift to the governor of this other town to let you in.
That's great.
It's
like a Persona dungeon. It's like, this, in our subconscious, I've always wanted to run a bakery.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It was a lot of fun. And I don't think it took me that long to beat. I had to have beaten it in under 10 hours, although...
Nice.
Like, that last area of the game is no joke. Even with all those buffs and everything, it still was, like, very difficult to get through just because you had to go... Just because of the sheer quantity of the amount of stuff you had to go through without a heal point. And, like, mana is very limited in that game. But...
Right.
Anyway, I highly... If you're ever interested in that game, I highly recommend it. But at the same time, if you don't like old games and seeing what they are, then I highly recommend you not playing it.
Yeah, Sega's actually done really well with their Sega Ages collections, because they've done that for a couple other ones. Like, they made a bunch of improvements to Sonic, the first Sonic the Hedgehog, where you can actually do the rolling spin attack, which you couldn't do originally. You can turn a lot of that stuff off if you want sort of the original version. But it was nice to see them put out the first Phantasy Star, because I think... Most people would expect them to put out like 2 or 4, or the ones that are really beloved. But they're like, no, man, here's the original one, and we've got auto mapping. It's like, okay, well, that's... Most of us have not played it, so that's a nice surprise.
Well, I'd really like to see them do that to 2 as well. I don't know if it's sold well enough for them to justify it, but 2 is on a similar game system type, where you're in that old kind of dungeon crawler view for a lot of it. I played a little bit of 2 on a emulator once upon a time, and that was very much I was following an FAQ, and it was telling me the amount of spaces I needed to move forward kind of situation.
Oh, wow. Right.
So I think an Ages situation is my only hope as an adult to be able to play through that.
Right.
And I played a little bit of 4, and I really liked that back in the day, so even if they just re-released 3 and 4, I bet those are still playable enough in their normal forms. Mm-hmm. But modern day updates is always appreciated, this stuff. So
yeah.
After that, I was kind of at a loss for what to play and was kind of wandering around. I booted up Tales of Vesperia for a minute, and like when I last played, I'd lost like an hour of progress or something, just due to not having a save. And so I made up that lost hour, got back in the forest, got Raven, aka Spike Spiegel.
Right. I forgot his name is Raven. Yeah.
It's his hair that makes me think of Spike, I think, is the deal.
the poofiness.
Yeah. And then I got to the boss of the floors and got completely floored by him and tried like 2 more times, and I guess I just want to coast through this game, and this game wants me. I don't know what it wants me to do. I don't know if I need to grind, if I'm just genuinely terrible at the combat and don't understand how I need to be playing it or what. But
the difficulty is uneven. I mean, even in the original one, it's sort of you'd run into a boss. The wolf boss was the hardest, but there's a couple bosses you'd run into where it's like, wow, I got destroyed in like 2 or 3 seconds. Thankfully, the definitive edition has all those level up items you can use, so you can just boost your level by like 40, 50, 90, something crazy where it's like you can get super high level right out of the gate.
Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I just need to go back in, because I haven't used those items yet, and I wasn't sure how many they gave me, so I was kind of thinking I'd save them strategically till I'm a high level and then just finish myself off the rest of the way to 100 or something like that. But if that's the case, I may just...
Yeah, the level cap is 200, so don't worry about using those. I would just pop them right now.
Do you need to be anywhere near that
No.
for the end of the game?
No, no. I think there's a trophy for getting one person at 200, but like the crazy thing about the Tales games is like you're not expected to do nearly everything until your second or third or fourth playthrough, where you're like going through the grade shop and pulling. It's like, all right, I'm gonna pull my character levels over, so I'm gonna start at 65, and I'm gonna keep doing that playthrough over playthrough. So maybe on your fourth playthrough, you're at 200, but you don't need to be anywhere near that or worry about any of that stuff. That's for crazy people like me.
I'll start looking at using those items then.
Yeah.
Because I really like the graphics of that game, and I feel like it's a nice, lighthearted world so far, and I like that the dungeons, like I'm very much trying to play that game stress-free, so because there's no map for the dungeons, I'm just going to wherever I'm going, fighting the boss and leaving, and I'm not even worrying about whether I get every inch or not.
Now, and I think the thing about a lot of treasure chests and Tales games is a lot of them aren't any good. So you're not missing like, oh, if you took the third left in the forest dungeon, you would have gotten this guy's super weapon. Nothing like that. So I wouldn't. Okay. I think you're playing Vesperia right, where it's like, hey man, I'm just gonna fight some bosses and go through some dungeons. Yeah. The level upgrades are in the you go to items. It's all the way to the right hand side. It's in looks like that little like starburst icon. It's where all your special stuff is. It'll be in there. Yeah,
I figured it was probably by the costumes, and I already burned one of the gold ones just because I was like, why not?
Yeah, I want to buy more swords.
Have to grind for gold. Yeah, pretty much. I want to get more. Like it has that system where you equip a weapon, and the weapon has skills on it that you get that you can unlock, after X amount of time.
Oh, that's right. Right.
And I love games that have that system for some reason. I don't know. It gives me like little mini goals to manage and go through, and it's
like Final Fantasy IX. You want to see all the bars fill up.
Yeah, exactly. So but anyway, well, okay, I'll give that another shot then. But at the time, I just turned that off, and I started looking at what else I could do, and I realized Delatrune Chapter 1 was free on Switch.
Yes. I also have to say, I didn't realize that Delatrune is just an anagram for Undertale.
Oh, I see it now.
All right, okay. Now I feel better, because everyone's like, yeah, of course. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize. I just thought Delatrune was a cool name. And then they're like, no, it's just Undertale all mixed up, and I'm like, oh. I had a real Phoenix Down moment.
I didn't know about the Phoenix Down thing till I heard Giant Bomb talking about it like
Me
a
neither,
month
and I was
or
like,
two ago.
Oh, Phoenix Down. Like, okay, gotcha. I thought it just meant like the Phoenix brings you from being down, not that it's actual down. Yeah.
But okay, so Delatrune is I'm not.
God.
Did you not know that?
Well, I was like processing it very slowly. I was like, "What are you talking about? A Phoenix Down?" And I was like thinking, like the birds on the ground. I'm trying to figure this out here.
Oh, that was the same thing. It was Brad Shoemaker over at Giant Bomb. He's like, "No, it's like a Phoenix Down. Like it brings people up from being down." They're like, "No, down like a bird's feathers." And he's like, I feel like half of the internet was all at the same time was like, "Oh," because it's like the same thing. Like in old games, like Final Fantasy 1, where they have an ether. you don't know how to pronounce that. You're like, yeah, it's an ether. Like, I don't know. It's a kokobo. No one's pronouncing this stuff. Like, I don't know.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. So, Deltarune, I guess, is tangentially related to Undertale. I'm not sure how. I've never beaten Undertale.
Yeah, I mean,
I got super stuck in a puzzle in Undertale. Super stuck. I finally because that's been on a Let's Play that I've basically halted 2 years ago, 4 years ago, something indefinitely because I got stuck at one puzzle and it frustrated me to the point that I was just done. And then I brought it up on a stream because someone was questioning something about Undertale, and I was like, no, this puzzle, I've been stuck on it forever. So they had me open it up. They walked me through the puzzle step by step, and I finally beat it. And they're like, okay, now you need to beat Undertale. And I was like, I guess I have to.
Right.
Got past that impossible.
Man. Yeah, I can't remember where I was in Undertale. I was in I was up to the scientist guy, I think.
That's where
I was stuck.
Yeah, that's where I got through the boss fight where the quiz boss fight. After I finished that, and I was just like, no thanks.
That's right where I got stuck. There's a puzzle right after that. It's a jumping puzzle with the little jumping pad thing. I jumping padded for about, I don't know, 8 hours. I was just sitting there going I can't. My brain has melted. I can't figure
spatial puzzles is not happening.
Yeah, so I that is exactly where I stopped.
Well, I'm glad that all three of us sort of pooped out at the same point.
That's funny. So I'm not as down on Deltarune as I am on Undertale. Mm-hmm. They have greatly improved the interface, so much so that it my first combat, the way they bring up the box for you to dodge whatever the bullet hell stuff is,
right,
is done in just kind of a really cool, smooth way that it didn't even occur to me that was what was happening, and I just got hit a whole bunch the first time. But the interface and the graphics and the animation are somehow way better. I'm shocked at how much the presentation on this has improved, while it still looks graphically like the old one.
Right.
It's a weird experience. So I obviously, this being the Undertale style game, I can't spoil a bunch of the things that I might have found cute about it, but I can essentially say this is about well, I can't say that. You get a party member this time, at least where I'm at. I'm only about an hour or so into the chapter, and then I kind of put it down for a minute. But this one seems like the first one I think was kind of lighthearted in a way, and it was kind of had that friendship is magic kind of theme to it. This one feels super dark.
Interesting.
Really, really dark. They have this bully they are just trying to make creepy as hell to you the entire time. And your first kind of journey into this other world, I think, is done very in a unnerving kind of art style, while still sticking with the art style of the previous one. It's really kind of cool to see. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it or not, but I like it a lot better than the other one so far. And I don't know if it's going to connect back around or if there's anything I've missed. I mean, a lot of the things appearing look like a lot of the character things that are appear look like the Undertale characters, but they aren't. You're distinctly in a different place in a different world doing a different thing.
It's nice to see him keep his style, though. Because I feel like Toby Fox has a very distinct style, not only for the game overall, but for the enemies and the characters you run into. And it's nice to see him stick with that, but kind of continue to his music is better, his art style is better. He's not just making Undertale 2; he's sort of flexing all those muscles a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think he could call, at least at this point, I don't think he could call it a sequel, since it seemingly is in a completely different place, just with some of the same types of creatures and such here. And plus, maybe Undertale got super dark at the end. I don't know.
I've been told that if you play it in a obviously the game wants you to kind of play as a pacifist. Like the game is clearly urging you to, but if you play it, in the opposite way and just like kill everything, kill everybody, it apparently goes to a really dark place. But I don't. I would never I can't even bring myself to do something like that. That's just never going to be me because
How could you kill any of those dogs?
Right.
Right. They're just happy dogs. Did you play this on Switch, Musum?
Yes.
Okay. That reminded me, I just downloaded it while we were sitting here talking. I just downloaded it for Switch. Because his thing is, Undertale's out now on Switch. I think it's out for everything. Delatrune is out on pretty much everything at this point, and it's free. Chapter 1 is free, and he said the rest of the game will be for charge later down the line whenever he's done with it. So,
and it does, like, when you start the game, it says, "Are you familiar with Undertale? If you aren't, you should probably go play it first."
Oh, interesting.
There may be something there. I'm not going to fulfill that, though. Like, anything I don't know about Undertale, I'll just go watch a YouTube video kind of thing. But
right.
It has my interest at the moment. And I think it's free. I think it's worth booting up and going through the intro just to see that, like, his style and how much the UI of that game is improved. But
yeah.
So after that, I continued my journey of what else do I have on my shelf that I haven't played that maybe I should give more time to, and I plugged in Shining Resonance Refrain. Another game that I don't know if I'm gonna follow through on. This is I'm starting to suspect this is like a weird, like, harem Tenchi Muyo type situation.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but like, you are in Shining Resonance Refrain, you're a character named Yuma, who also happens to be the Shining Dragon. And you find this out, and you can turn into a dragon in battle. Nice. Basically, anytime you want, as long as you have MP. And then if you run out of MP, you'll go berserk and attack your teammates or something.
Oh, interesting.
I haven't really quite figured out why you don't want to be the dragon unless you are fighting something that is that will kill you quickly, and then you just kind of want to play that game conservatively. Like, I fought another dragon that game last night where he was just like an HP sponge and literally took 15 minutes to beat.
Wow.
And whenever I turned into a dragon, my whole team died and then I'd die, type of situation. And so it was a lot of, like, but he moves so slow that, like, you're just supposed to go up, attack him, run back for him to do his attacks, and rinse repeat for, 10 to 15 minutes, which is, I think, a poorly designed boss fight.
Yeah.
But this seems like a fairly shallow game that has a sunny disposition. So, like, the sunny disposition kind of has my interest, and its music puns kind of have my interest. Like, right. All your weapons are also, like, weird instrument amalgamations, and you take them to a tuner who can, like, change the elementals. Like, I don't really understand it yet, but at the tuner will change what your weapon is tuned to, and you can level up each of those different tuning styles. And from what I can tell, it is changing the elements of the weapon.
Okay.
I could be wrong. That's just, I only have, like, access to 2 different tunings for the 3 characters I have. The game also came with a bunch of alternate outfits, which, being what I propose is probably a Tenchi Muyo harem situation. Half of them are swimsuits, but
right.
A couple aren't. Like, they have, like, pop star things where they're all in, like, these white kind of, like, how Michael Jackson wore, like, the military kind of looking outfit.
Yeah, and they all matched.
Yeah.
It's like white versions of those.
Oh.
But they all, like, some of them give your characters extra. I can't remember what that system's called. There's like a bond system, right? And the bond system changes what characters do for each other. So it unlocks another thing for the bond system certain costumes do. So like the Pop Idol one unlocks a bond thing for Yuma. The maid outfits, I know, unlock a system for the 2 side ladies. So I don't. It's funny. Like there's a lot of systems in the game, but at the end of the day, like you're on kind of a open world map reminiscent of like Ys 8. I think I'd compare it to, where you see the enemies on it. You walk up to one, and then it enters a battle screen, but you're still in the same environment.
Right.
And then you just kind of attack or cast magic or kind of change what your guys are doing. Like it's combat-wise, it's surprisingly similar in a lot of ways, I think, to Ys 8. But it seems like a fairly shallow, possibly enjoyable game. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. The dialogue's not great either. I don't know. Maybe you should skip it.
It sounds like it's fine.
Yeah, like it's a mediocre game. It's I think the graphics are pretty nice. I think it has a very good visual look. But just nothing about it like really stands out. Like aside from the music pun stuff.
Right.
Anyway, so last and not least, or possibly least, I don't know, depending on your viewpoint. I played Anthem, and I don't.
You and I actually played a couple missions yesterday, I think it was.
We did. I finally got to play. I played with you and my wife, and that was a grand total, I think, of 3 missions.
Right.
2 with you, 1 with her. And I don't. This is probably less of an RPG than even Destiny is, but
yeah,
it's by our friends at Borrowware. By friends, I mean I guess we're fans of them. I guess starting out in the positive, I really like the flight.
Yes.
I chose Interceptor for my first class. The Interceptor class, to me, plays a lot like doing Melee and Warframe.
Right.
But not, like it's fast, but not Warframe fast.
Yeah, one of the things, so for anyone that maybe doesn't know much about Anthem, one of the things that spoiler alert, one of the very few things I like about Anthem is that you, unlike Destiny, where you're playing a character that has one locked-in class, and you're expected to run multiple characters, in Anthem, you're just the freelancer. So you're just one character, and you get access to all 4 of the javelins, the different suits. Those are your classes.
Like that.
Yeah, I actually really like that.
I like that. That's a positive to me. That kind of works like the way Warframe does, where you have all these different suits. You don't have to like log into a whole new character.
You're not replaying the same content 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And so Musin picked Interceptor, which they big selling point for that is that it's very fast and it's melee focused. I picked Ranger for my very first one, which is really the jack of all trades one. It's not great at anything, but it's sort of average and I think it can use the majority of the weapons in the game. There are a couple of weapon classes that only the Colossus can use because they're the big, heavy tank class. They have very, very big weapons that only they can use. Mm-hmm. And the last one is Storm, which is their mage class. It's the one where you're going to sort of float in the air and cast spells and do stuff. Surprisingly wasn't crazy about that class. It's a little too squishy for how I want to play that game. And I haven't tried the Interceptor yet, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Yeah, Colossus I just got my second suit, and I chose Colossus, and I played it for a mission, and like the moveset with it felt good. Like his melee is, he hits the ground, and you get like this weird little quake thing around you that just kills everything, and that's appealing. And it gets a shield, which I question how useful that actually is.
Right.
Because it's not like, in Destiny or in Warframe where you put a giant globe around you that protects you. It's a literal shield that you put in front of you that you can't, like if you start shooting, then he puts the shield up. So it's a weird trade-off.
The Interceptor has that shield, by the way, but it's not as potent as something that would be like in a Destiny or a Warframe. It's like made out of paper mache. It's pretty disappointing.
Does it? I didn't like
yeah.
my moveset.
It's called like Bulwark Point, I think, where they put up like they have two. One bubble buffs gun damage, and one bubble does protection.
Oh, so they do have a bubble shield system in the game. Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like the interceptor because I mean, you essentially mash melee and you get like all the other classes. I think just get to dash once or something like that, right? Yep. Except Colossus, who doesn't dash at all, and Interceptor, you can do 3 dashes all on a row, so you can just fly all over the freaking screen.
And you're doing melee combos and stuff instead of like the Ranger just does one quick melee, and that's really it.
Yeah. But like the I don't know, man. Like I was trying to stay like semi-positive on the game, but I feel like us playing last night, like I like playing games with you, but it really just started spelling out like how like disappointing this is, because we get this really cool looking world that feels empty, and you get like a lot of combat that doesn't feel very fulfilling.
Right.
And like the story to me at this point, and granted I've only put a few hours into it, but it seems kind of non-existent. Like you go back to the city.
That's a huge shame, because when I hear BioWare, the first thing I think of is like a deep, rich story. And that's like what when I hear BioWare, that's what I'm jumping in for, is a really good story. And
yeah, I finished the game, so I was probably about 15 hours in.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah, I got over the 2 sort of brick wall quests that the game provides you with, which are just the worst. I think the story it's really a bummer because it's largely forgettable, and it sort of it commits the Final Fantasy 13 sin, where it is just throwing a ton of phrases out at you that don't really, like the Cenotaph and the Anthem of Creation and Freelancers and all this other stuff, and the game expects you to, 1, sort of assume a lot, and 2, read the codex, which they call the cortex in the game.
No.
But the problem is that you're so encouraged to play with other people. Even if you set a mission to solo, the game sort of like wags its finger at you and it's like, hey, don't forget, like you should really be playing this multiplayer. So you don't really get a chance to read all that stuff because you're always like pulling down 3 other people, or the game is pulling you ahead because your party has moved ahead. So you don't really get a chance to interact with any of the lore, any of the stuff that's in the game. And to me, one of the worst sins it commits is the loading screens, as everyone has heard, are plentiful and lengthy, and they are very long. And instead of displaying the Cortex stuff on the loading screens, which would have been great, they just show static concept art. It's like,
no.
That you're sitting at a loading screen for sometimes up to a minute. I'm more than happy to read a codex entry. Like, that's great. I'll start reading about
Dark Souls style codex stuff.
Exactly. Like, I will be happy to read where the javelins came from, or like General Tarsus, you know, the town was named after. You know, like, give me some of that stuff in there. And when you're matchmaking, there's even a little cutscene where you're getting strapped in your javelin and it's like powering up for the first time, but then you just have a tiny progress bar, and it's a real bummer.
I mean, if you really think about it, like I guess my initial reaction to it is they tried to take the Destiny mission structure, right? Mm-hmm. Where you launch to a certain point in the world with a set of people to go do a thing that's usually fetch something or kill something,
right,
or defend something. But then they try to have the BioWare story stuff to a degree in it, where it seems like they have these characters that they put a lot of effort into in your home base, whatever it's called. I honestly don't remember. Mm-hmm. But like those things just are never going to mesh. Like,
right.
A part of the like if you think about like Mass Effect or Dragon Age, or oh, okay, here's like the Dragon Age. You're suddenly going into the I forget what it's called, the underground tunnel dwarf places,
right?
And like slowly learning about this other race, the Hellspawn, and kind of finding out what makes them and this and that. And you're finding that as you're going down and uncovering texts and things like that. And
your party members are talking to each other. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah.
And that, and a multiplayer game is never going to be conducive to that. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah,
it's the problem I've always had with Borderlands. It's like there's all these people talking, especially in town and during missions and stuff, but I'm shooting stuff right now, and I'm so encouraged to play with other people that you're really both feeling pushed through the game, and there's like gunfights going on. I'm talking to my teammates about, hey, I fell down, the death screen is super boring, can someone please God come and res me? That's it doesn't jive at all.
Yeah, and I really wish. I feel like it also feels like they made these core mechanics that they have, and then just very hurriedly made the rest of the game and put it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like they would have been in a better boat if they had just tried to make a good 10 to 20 hour single player campaign,
and then have the multiplayer like separate. Yeah. I don't understand why game companies don't do that, period, because when I hear a game is going to be a multiplayer game, I've already almost written it completely out of my agenda, because it's just like I'd have to find people to play with consistently.
Yeah.
And it also takes up so much time, because then we have to schedule and stuff, and I really want to sit down and play a game on my time and enjoy it during my time. But if it was like a game that I could have single player and multiplayer experience, I'd be like, oh, I'm down for that, because then I can just play by myself, and then when a friend's on it, like, hey, let's go play this multiplayer game.
It's like what Diablo 3 did really well. You have your single player that you can grind or you can do whatever, but it has the multiplayer and drop in, drop out whenever you want someone to hang around. And I think that should have been the blueprint that BioWare should have been chasing after. But instead, they seem to have been chasing after Destiny more than anything else, but they never... the whole package doesn't really come together like something like Destiny eventually did, or I haven't played the First Division, but that eventually got there. But like even comparing Anthem to Diablo 3, Anthem doesn't have a character sheet, so you can't see how much overall, like how much all of your gear increases your crit damage or your cooldowns or anything like that. You just get this number that says like, oh, now I'm like 195, I have an uncommon javelin, or I have a rare or epic javelin. Like, that's really it, even though there's all these stats on your gear. And that's... They tried to make a loot game, and I think they failed on nearly every aspect of it.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, and they kind of had the example of how not to do a loot game with Mass Effect 1. I mean, God, the inventory management in that thing,
Well, and to be fair, they sort of had the blueprint of how to not do it in Destiny 1 and 2. Both of those games stumbled a huge amount right out of the gate. So you sort of knew where at least your launch product needed to be with... the systems and features and expectations and quantity of content that both of those games and the Division, and to a certain extent some of the early Warframe stuff, but that Warframe was so early that a lot of those missteps were understandable. But for them to come out and make a lot of those mistakes again is just baffling.
It does make me wonder, like, did BioWare actually come up with the idea for a multiplayer game with Anthem, or this is my conspiracy hat? Did EA say, we want a Destiny competition?
I don't even think that's a conspiracy, because I'm jumping on board that too. I really feel EA was like, we need somebody to make a Destiny game right now, and they're like, who do we have? Let's throw BioWare on this. it doesn't feel like this was a BioWare decision.
I'm actually going to be the counterpoint to here. I really don't. I know EA is an easy scapegoat, and often they are their own worst enemies. I really don't think this was EA in this point, because I think when you look at their two other tentpole releases in Mass Effect and Dragon Age, Dragon Age has had one out of 3 games being a critical and sales darling. That was the first one. 2 was bad for a lot of reasons. You can blame EA for that one. And Dragon Age Inquisition, they had already EA had poisoned the well on that one. Inquisition wasn't going to win no matter what. And Mass Effect sort of was tripping over itself over time, and Andromeda just they tripped right into the grave on that one. And I think
Andromeda was good. I didn't play it, but I thought it was good from the people I heard it. Was it not that good?
Not that it wasn't good. We don't have the time to get into why perception was so bad on Mass Effect Andromeda. That was a fine game. It was obviously never going to beat Mass Effect 2, which is most people's high watermark for the series.
It is my high water.
Yeah. But I think Andromeda was sort of the nail in the coffin for Mass Effect. And I think if you're not someone like CD Projekt Red, or you're not In Exile, or you're not some of these companies that are making it their mission to make single-player offline RPGs, I think you can look at Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda and some of what 2 is trying to do, and you can see the natural progression from those games integrating more multiplayer stuff and Horde mode for Mass Effect 3, which was really good. They should have just made more of that. And I think you can see Anthem being the natural destination for that stuff, but their implementation of it is so off base that it definitely, I think, externally looks like, well, obviously EA wanted a Destiny killer instead of BioWare wanted to make a full version of Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. I think they wanted to do that, and they failed on nearly every decision to do that.
Actually, that would have been... I guess they couldn't do it after Andromeda, but just making a Mass Effect, hey, we're going to make an entire game that's all multiplayer, and all you're doing is fighting battles in the last big Reaper War, or maybe it doesn't even have to be that. It can be the First Contact War or something like that. With
it's the class-based, wave-based stuff they did in 3 that was really good. Yep.
I mean, they could probably make something really fun there. I really like the 3 multiplayer, like you said, and since they've added all the stuff to 3, I absolutely adore 3 at this point. But I mean, I don't know. I'm really worried about the next Dragon Age. They give us that preview with old Solus talking about finding them, and
it's like
there's nothing.
It's like a 20-second thing where it's just Solus is on screen and he says 2 sentences.
Do you want the answers or something like that? And it's now I'm really if BioWare sticks around and isn't shut down.
In the I romanced him in the
Every time you tell me that, I think I have to replay all these games,
right,
and see what that is like.
It is. It's wild.
It's a trip.
That racist little no.
But I think you're right. I think when we were dealing with the Dragon Age games and the Mass Effect trilogy, I think you announce a BioWare game and everyone says, okay, where do I sign up? Can I pre-order now? Let's just get into it. And I think after the poor reception for the ending of 3, and then Andromeda, Inquisition, and now Anthem, I think they've had... Most of these studios will have one miss here or there, like the launch of Diablo 3. And they'll bring it back, or the next game they come out with will be great. They've had 3 or 4 sort of critical misses in a row, and I think you look at the next Dragon Age, and I'm there with you, Musim, where it's sort of like, you need to show me a lot of stuff before you get me interested in a day one thing. Because if you're going to show me some multiplayer thing, even if it's like a secondary mode, you know, you'll have maybe your Mass Effect 3 where you have your single player and then your multiplayer. Like, you've got a lot of selling to do.
I loved Inquisition so much. I didn't realize it didn't sell well for him. That's too bad.
It did not. No. Dragon Age 2 burned so many people. I think they did. I think they tapped out.
I mean, I was mad at Dragon Age 2 for a couple of reasons. One, it was just like I loved Origins so much, and then I went to 2 and I was like, what is this?
This is very different.
But I think what really got me like super tired in 2 was how many times I saw the same dungeon.
Yep. And that's because they made that game in 18 months. If anyone wants to know about Dragon Age 2, I think it was in Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, that book about game development. Really great book. Really crazy chapter.
You find out things about like how they made Majora's Mask in like what did they give them? Like, did they give them a year or something after?
It might have been around that, yeah.
Ocarina of Time. They were like, you have 1 year to make.
Right. Make a brand new one.
Zelda game.
Yeah.
And that's why it's got so many reused assets in there, is because like they had to, you only have like a year to get that game out.
Yep.
Woof.
Well, and BioWare does, like, they've been doing these 18-month turnaround cycles. Like, I think that's what they did for Mass Effect 3. Because I remember reading about it in the final hours of Mass Effect 3 thing that Jeff Keighley did.
Right.
That was that weird $2 app you could get, and it was just a big article. And it was cool. It was mostly about Casey Hudson, and I forgot who the head writer's name is.
All the old guard from BioWare.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's all those guys' fault that the original ending was a non-ending.
Right. Well, and I think the thing, we were talking about this yesterday too, Musim. I think everyone needs to remember that like all of those guys left, and they work at like In Exile. They work at all these studios that are making those old games. You know, they're making Torment, and they're making all these spiritual successors to Fallout and Torment and all these other great series over at those other places, and that's not BioWare anymore.
It does make you. It does kind of make you wonder if we're just going to flat out see a change in. Okay, we normally think about these publishers as our Western RPG developers. You know, maybe their time as being those is done, and maybe Microsoft is just going to pump a bunch of money into Obsidian and Exile, and they're going to be our RPG kings. Like, I like the In Exile games a lot, but they are definitely B tier games.
Yeah, they're not your like AAA. Excuse me, AAA experiences.
I do have some hope for that new Obsidian game. I hope
so do I.
Was that Outer Wilds?
Yeah,
something like that. That could be really, but
Outer Worlds or something.
Yeah, something like that. But that's one of those games that I'm like giving the squinty eyes to, where it's like, I'm gonna watch you for a while. Like, you don't. I like all the people involved, but I've been bitten too many times by this.
I'm starting to get desperate for a concise single player high grade experience. Like, I feel like I haven't gotten that in a long time.
I feel like I will probably make a lot of people laugh when I say this. Have you played The Witcher 3?
Here's the problem. When I think about, I played the intro on it. I'm like, oh, this looks really cool. And then I thought, I gotta be really close to the end of Witcher 1. And then I turned it off. And then I didn't play Witcher 1.
Yeah, you should go play The Witcher 3. And don't worry about the first two, because they don't really matter.
I wish I could not worry about them, but I worry about them. I don't know why. I just really want to see those. Like I'm so close at the end of 1. I know I'm in the last act. Right. I'm real close to the climax. I just need to put in the probably 10 hours it needs to beat it.
Oh, yikes.
I mean, that's a 90-hour game.
No, yeah, I put like 80 hours in Witcher 3, and I saw like half of it, so
Gotcha.
I'm right there with you.
Well, I've heard Witcher 2 is amazing, and I know they overhauled that system a lot. So part of me still wants to play through that thing too as well, and I don't know where to draw the line. Cyberpunk isn't coming out any year soon.
Yeah. Who knows when that's coming out?
I mean, who knows if Bethesda's ever going to make a game I want to play again?
Right.
Like BioWare evidently isn't.
Yeah. We've got Obsidian and In Exile keeping us.
I'm shaking right now.
Right.
And harebrained schemes. Like that's the other problem. Yeah. It's like I really want to play through BattleTech, but I don't want to play a game on my PC right now. I don't know how I flip-flopped over the years to not wanting to play games on PC, but it's happened.
Right.
But anyway, so that's all. I guess I complain about Anthem. No.
Yeah, I have nothing else good to say about it, so I'm not gonna keep beating the dead horse.
Well, that is all I've been playing.
All right, Mina, how about you?
All right, so I didn't play a lot of RPGs this month. I played a lot of other different types of games, especially mobile games. I played a lot of mobile games, but I am not going to force us to listen to me talk about all my mobile games. So what I'm going to talk about is the sparingly few RPGs I played, and most of it was influenced kind of by like the news announcement section. So I watched that Nintendo Direct, and I got so much hype in me I couldn't contain the hype.
Yep.
So because of all that hype explosion, I was like, I need to play all these games that I have that are related to these games. So, well, I opened up my 3DS and I was going to start playing Rune Factory 4, and I did eventually get to it. But before I did that, I was like, oh, you know what? I really want to play that not old, but like that Harvest Moon game back when Natsume was still publishing the games over here for us in the West. I was like, I'm going to play that Harvest Moon: A New Beginning, which was their last one. I repeat, their last one before it was, they never got another one of those. And I played for a little bit of it, and I immediately remembered why I cannot play this particular Harvest Moon game. And I went immediately to go play the latest one that we've had, which is the Story of Seasons Trio of Towns. And I'm going to explain this for anybody who's interested in playing like a farming simulation game, and you're like, should I play A New Beginning or should I buy Trio of Towns? Play Trio of Towns, and here's why. So, first of all, when you start A New Beginning, which is the Natsume one, when you start A New Beginning, it starts with basically maybe 4 or 5 people in the entire town that live there. Maybe it was 4. Maybe it's 4, and then you get 5. I don't remember. That is a sparingly few amount of NPCs.
Right.
But the other thing is the town map is almost devoid of anything. It's just you got a couple of houses just there, and then there's this wide open nothing area. And the way this game works is as you progress through the game, you slowly are able to build up the town. So you have this town building up sort of thing, and people slowly move into your village. The thing is you really can't fast forward this process. You can't work towards this process. It has to it's drip feeding you in the worst kind of drip feed, out of your control drip feed. And for the first entire month, you can have basically no progress in anything besides growing crops. And that is awful.
Yeah.
Because you get kind of bored because you're like, I can't build more barns. I can't work towards, getting new people to move into this village. I can't upgrade anything. I can't till any more fields because they've limited you to only tilling X amount of fields. So it's just there's a lot of you're going to be doing a lot of nothing. And it doesn't even give you an idea of progress and how it's going to work. So you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs and thinking is this the game? Question mark.
Is this what I got myself into?
So that's how that game starts out. That is awful. And the thing is like it just like compounds into way worse things. So another thing is if you are in the town during certain hours, you have like this unskippable like 60-second feeling cutscene that happens every single day of the game.
Oh boy.
And it's unskippable. You can't mash to progress past this. You just have to sit through it. And so there's like I could complain about so many things about this game and how it hinders you and upsets you in every single way. And then it's almost like if someone were to hear all the cries of everything I hated about this game and just be like, I hate this, I hate that, I hate like all of this stuff, you're really making this bad for me. It was like someone was like, I hear you. Okay, when we make Trio of Towns, it's not gonna have that stuff.
Right.
It's almost like
it's only gonna have the good stuff you want.
We got you. So when you start Trio of Towns, it again has this sort of drip feeding sort of thing. And the thing is I don't think drip feeding is a bad thing. It's a good thing, and as long as you do it right. So the way Trio of Towns starts out, they give you a free little barn, a free little chicken coop, lots of fields, more fields than your stamina could handle in the first place. So, oh man, you only had like I don't know, like 4 squares that you could till in the A New Beginning. This one they give you like 6, 12, I don't know, maybe 16 fields or something like that. I don't know. A drastic number difference right there. I don't remember the number specifically, but so they have all of that. And it's throwing different systems at you pretty much every couple of days. You get like a new system being introduced to you. So there are 3 towns, but you only have access to 1 town at the start. It's like the paths to the other 2 towns are broken down. You can't advance getting to those towns faster. However, halfway through the first year, one of the towns becomes open, and by the end of the month, the first month, halfway through, it opens up one path, and then once you finish that month, the other path opens. So you basically get all of that unlocked in like the span of a month.
Nice.
And in between there, you get things like, oh, let me introduce fishing to you, and then it's like, oh, let me introduce part-time jobs in this game. Oh, let me introduce this town link thing that basically sending crops to a town will increase its rank, and then they will sell better products. So you're actively working towards a lot of goals, and they have like a lot of like different shops to work towards. New villagers are moving in the time that you're like in this first couple of days or whatever. So it's really nice that it's got all of this stuff going on. And honestly, by the time you get to the point where you start feeling pretty confident that, like, yeah, I got how this works, and you're just like, I wonder when the next thing's going to happen in the game to, like, let me do something else, it opens up. It's almost like the game's like, okay, you've had enough time to, figure out your daily schedule with that. Let me throw a wrench in that now, and we're going to add something new.
Right.
And instead of waiting a full month before you can start building and upgrading things on your farm, about halfway through the month, it's like, hey, let's talk about building things that you definitely do not have the money nor materials to work towards. So the game is just kind of like, it's steps before you start questioning, like, I'm starting to get bored with something in this game. Mm-hmm. Please give me more. So while it could have been just as easy as like just open it all up to you from the very beginning, which they could have done that, and that wouldn't have been a problem, this sort of drip feeding kind of like guides the player without being too hand-holdy, in a sense, where it's not like, hey, water that crop for me. I'm going to watch you water the crop. And then It's like, okay, you've successfully watered the crop. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Like, it doesn't do that to you. It's very much like, no, you have full capability of doing whatever you want, but it's like within the realm of like this stuff that we've taught you so far.
Right. That sounds way better.
It is way better. It is so much better. So I like Trio of Towns a lot, and I ended up really like. I remember someone asked me before, like, which Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons game I would recommend. Probably Trio of Towns. It's the newest of all of them, and I know that they're going to be coming out with another Story of Seasons game. I always want to say Harvest Moon, and I've been trying to not say that because I don't like the Harvest Moon that exists now.
Right. It's a very different series.
It's very different. Night and day different to me. But I really like Trio of Towns. I think it's one of the better ones. I think that it has a lot of good stuff in it. And so I enjoyed playing that. And then I went to go play Rune Factory 4 because I am so hyped for Rune Factory 4/5. And I know we're going to be talking about 5 and 4 in the news section, but seriously, if I were to be stranded on an island and I could only have one game in my 3DS and it would be like the only game that I could play on this island for the rest of my life, it would probably be Rune Factory 4.
Wow.
I love it that much. I love it so much. I have bought it multiple times for multiple people back when I had like a good paying job. I actively would ask people like, hey, do you own Rune Factory 4? No, you have a 3DS? I'm buying that game for you. You can play.
Here it comes.
That's how much I love that game, was that I would buy it for other people to play. And I think it's just because it's a game that you can really fine tune to the needs of yourself. So if you're a type of person who's like, yeah, I like the farming aspect, but I really want to do the farming aspect, and all the other stuff I really don't care about, you can basically tune down the battle to the point that it's so easy that you're just walking through and you can just, like, every monster you cut through like butter. So you can do it like that. If you're like, hey, I'm way into the crafting aspect, you can get really into the crafting aspect, and you can make all kinds of overpowered weapons and really figure out like what materials make what sort of weapon powerful, and you can keep upgrading your weapons and leveling that skill up. If you're like way into the farming aspect, you could farming and fighting aspect, you can grow dungeons, like tree dungeons and stuff, and you can go through there. If you're like way into just the fighting and you're just like farming stupid and I don't want to do the farming stupid stuff, what you can do is that you can capture monsters and have the monsters take care of your farm for you.
Oh, cool.
And so like it's like, I don't want to do anything with the stupid farming thing, but I want the materials that you can get from farming. So like the monsters will do that all for you. And then it's like, yeah, I just throw fodder into the bin for the monsters to chew on, and I've done my job here, and move on, and then like it's just kind of like a game that's like, it has too many systems. I would say that this game is trying to accomplish too many things at the same time, and it works. Like, it's doing a crazy balancing act where it's like you could take one of those spinning plates down and you'd still be called a really good game, but it decides like, no, I'm just going to keep throwing more stuff on there. The amount of experience and levels, there's an endless dungeon, I believe, in the game where you can keep going down and down and down in. And there's just so much content there. And when I saw the news talking about how Rune Factory 4 is coming to the Switch, I about jumped out of my... I started, like, screaming. I was like, oh my god, it's coming to the Switch. I need to buy, like, now. Put it up now. I want to buy it now. And I remember I was so excited about hearing Rune Factory 4 and, like, seeing the announcement. I was typing to someone. I was like, I'm going to buy a copy. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to tell everybody to buy a copy because maybe we'll get Rune Factory 5. Because, in case you didn't know, Neverland was the company that was making the Rune Factory series. They went bankrupt, and then the IP was kind of like, what happened to the IP? And because like it's assumed that it went back to Marvelous. I don't think we ever got confirmation it went back to Marvelous, and it was just like nobody talked about it. They didn't say anything for years about it, and all this time I was just thinking to myself like, wow, they went out with a bang. They made Rune Factory 4 as their exit game, and that was it. And I was like, and it sold so well. I think it sold like something like triple of like all of their games that had come out or whatever. Like it sold really well, but it didn't save them enough from bankruptcy.
Right.
I don't think anything could have saved them at that point based on what I observed. But so as I was typing to someone like maybe if we all buy Rune Factory 4, like maybe we'll get Rune Factory 5, maybe they'll hear my cry. And just as I was like finishing typing that, like everyone I was talking to like screamed back at me, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's a 5 on the screen!" And it was like seeing Persona 5 announcement, you know, like the 5 appears on the screen.
It's finally happening.
I'm like, oh my God. The nerd in me is like screaming. I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting it. Rune Factory 5. I seriously can't wait. Like, this is the most hyped thing ever since Persona 5 for me.
Right.
So, Rune Factory 5. I'm serious though. Like, as I really want them to live up. It's going to be hard to live up to my expectations after what happened with 4. And BT dubs, if you own a Switch and you've never played Rune Factory 4 and you're interested in a combat farming, crafting, dating like everything mushed together game with a pretty good story, like a pretty good. It's a feel good story. It's a charming little cute story. I liked it. If you're down for all of that, Rune Factory 4, like keep that in your head.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait. It's an actual enhanced version too. It's being like it's ported to the Switch, but they're enhancing it, so it graphically looks a lot better. So I'm really hyped for that. Again, I've only played like a couple of other mobile games and non-RPGs, so I think we will just pass this off to Boston.
I wrote down Destiny 2 here, but I don't really have a lot to talk about here because the most current season is ending, season 4, 5, and we're sort of Bungie did what they usually do, and they waited till the last minute to talk about the next season, and then they just dumped like an 8-minute trailer on us, and it was like, here's all the cool stuff. By the way, it's coming out Tuesday. It's like, okay, that's fantastic. That's really good news. So mostly like trying to wrap up the end of this season, trying to unlock anything that I really wanted in the season, and trying to help other people through some of the content, and just sort of not play since I know that I'll be playing when the new season comes out. I finished and platinumed Kingdom Hearts 3. That was
Holy smokes.
Surprisingly easy platinum. No proud mode, no level. There was a level 99, but that was super easy. Most annoying ones were like collect all the cooking ingredients and get an excellent on all the cooking things. I obviously will not spoil Kingdom Hearts 3. That would be like the worst possible thing. I was really happy with how it ended. I think largely because I didn't have an ending in mind already. So I think I was going to be pretty happy with anything they did. And I was happy with where they got to. And I'm happy to see if they're going to continue Kingdom Hearts. Not a spoiler, but you know, I'm happy to see if they're gonna or they've always been talking about like this is the end of Sora's chapter or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and they're like, we're wrapping out the trilogy of 12 games, and I feel like they did put a good bookend on it. But I'm curious to see if they're gonna continue Kingdom Hearts something in the future, but I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 3. I thought that was great, and I'm happy to see that saga has now come to a close. As far as we know, they might just put out more of it, but so actually they just announced a bunch of DLC. So, and it will never end. Kingdom Hearts will never end, I guess, and I'm super happy about that. But that's all I played this month because I have not played. I played a lot of Darkest Dungeon, but we're talking about that over on TVGP's We Roguelike It, because we thought it was a super hardcore roguelike, and it's actually a super hardcore RPG with a little bit of roguelike elements. If you have not played Darkest Dungeon, you should really go do that. It is a difficult, sometimes oppressive game, but man is it good. I put in a little over 20 hours the first week we played, because I just could not stop playing it. And I've actually started back over on PS4, and I'm going to try and beat Darkest Dungeon. I know that's not a thing people do because you don't really beat it, but by God, I'm gonna do it probably. Maybe
we should talk about that sometime because I've played it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I always get kleptomaniacs. I hate
kleptomaniacs. Are the worst. Anytime I get one of those, they just right out of my town.
Yep.
Like you're fired. You're out of here.
They're the worst.
I haven't played it since it released. Are any of the console versions any good?
I'm really happy with the Switch version. So I have it on. I had it somehow on PC. Like any game in Steam, it just sort of shows up. I have the PS4 version, which I think is good, but I think the control scheme they have for the Switch version is probably my favorite. They got a really, really good control scheme down with the two Joy-Cons, with the added bonus of being able to use the touchscreen.
Ooh, that sold me.
So part of what I like is you can click on enemies, you can click on your attacks. I don't like doing that. What I really like is being able to click and drag party members from your roster into the bar, or get them their maladies taken care of, or anything like that. Or you can click on them and upgrade their equipment and stuff like that. That, to me, you can do it okay in the PS4 version, but being able to click and drag and tap on individual stuff on their character sheet on the Switch version is really where it's at. And I know they have a bunch of the DLC on Switch, but I would recommend for anyone checking out Darkest Dungeon, just start with the base game to start with. Don't add Crimson Court or anything else to begin with. The base game is hard enough by itself. The stuff that they add on top of it is really meant for your third or fourth playthrough. It's really, take it from me, it is really not for your first playthrough. I think the base game is $25, and that is well worth it. And it looks really good on that screen on Switch too. Oh man. Yeah, go play Darkest Dungeon. It is a really, really, really great game. Let's get into RPG releases for March 2019. Tom Clancy's The Division comes out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One on, I think, the 15th. So it's another one of those things where if you buy some editions, you get to play it 3 days early. So it comes out somewhere around there. So I apologize if that date is wrong, but I cannot really seem to get a straight answer on that one. And Final Fantasy VII comes out on the Switch and Xbox One on the 26th. So that's the beginning of Square Enix putting out all the stuff they've put out already on Switch. 9 just came out on Switch, 7 will be coming out, and so 10, 10.2, and 12 are all going to be coming out on Switch. At a later date, they're sort of putting them out as they go. Speaking of Final Fantasy XII, let's talk about news stories. Final Fantasy XII on Switch and Xbox One gets a bunch of new features that I hope they backport to some of this other stuff at some point. 4 main features. Number 1, resetting your license board, including resetting your jobs. Mina is correct. That's a really big deal. It'd be nice if they would put that in the other versions.
Please.
Because that would mean that would mean you can't screw up a playthrough by picking the wrong jobs. That would make recommending Zodiac Age even easier by saying, just play it. If you don't like it, go talk to Mont Blanc and he'll let you reset. No big deal. Additional Gambit sets, which is fine. That's not the world's biggest change at all. They're improving New Game Plus. Your party members can start at level 90 and carry over some equipment, magic, weapons, gil, some stuff like that. So you'll carry over even more stuff. And then the Xbox One X version will be at 60 frames per second, which is really great. That's going to look really good at 60 frames. I think the PC version can already do that. But Final Fantasy 12 is really good. And especially that first change will make Zodiac Age even better. Go play 12. 12 is good. Please. Next news story here: Darkest Dungeon 2 has been announced. You know, as I am now getting into the first one, they're announcing the second one will be in early access. Same as they did with the first one. They have a sort of a lengthier early access thing. This one looks. The whole conceit about the first one is you're sort of delving deeper into the estate that has gone, in some sort of eldritch way, has gone horribly wrong. And you don't really go beyond the estate's borders. The thing with Darkest Dungeon 2 is it very much looks like you're going to be climbing up a mountain as the storyline conceit for this one. Which has me really excited to see how they're going to potentially do, you know, point A to point B thing, which is very different from Darkest Dungeon 1. And they're bringing over the same narrator, so that's a big selling point for Darkest Dungeon. And Wayne June will be back as a narrator again, which is really good news. And that's sort of all we know at the moment. They're really keeping this one close to the vest. I don't think they even have a release date for the early access to start, but that's really good news. We need more cool, different RPGs out there. And last but not least, like Mina was talking about, there's a Nintendo Direct that came out this month. Usually we don't talk about them because they don't have a lot of RPGs in them. This time was basically all RPGs, which was a very nice change. The first one they showed was Fire Emblem Three Houses, which they spent a ton of time talking about the houses themselves and how it's like a magical school, which I am way into, and all the different factions and stuff, and very little gameplay, which probably means that it's just another Fire Emblem game, which is okay. But I don't know too much about that game because I sort of started tuning out when they started doing a lot of lore stuff, so I guess we'll know more during launch. But that coming to the Switch could be really good. I'm hoping that turns out all right. You also showed Daemon Ex Machina, which I know, Musum, you played the demo. Is that an RPG?
Yeah. I mean, I guess...
Not really?
Oh, okay, it's as much of an RPG as Destiny or Anthem is.
Okay.
Like, it's a mech customization game. I think your character went up levels. I know you could replace... Like it's weird because you have a thing you can do that will give your mech you extra piloting abilities and abilities outside of your mech. And when you go to it, they're talking about implants and stuff. You're thinking, oh, this won't be a big deal. And then you do an implant, and they literally replace your legs with robot legs.
That's super cool. I want robot legs.
The mech customization feels to me like a design your own Gundam, which is, you know, feels amazing. Like, and when I say Gundam, I'm more talking like Universal Century style, like more the militaristic ones,
like
more
Front
the
Missions
modern days.
Wanzers almost.
Not quite that boxy.
Okay.
But like it still has like the humanoid form. It's just not like the stereotypical image that you think of when you think of Gundam.
Right.
But like it looks like something Char would drive in one of the recent Gundam animes. But
less like Gundam Wing and more like some of the other more down-to-earth ones.
I really like that demo. I think the gameplay is pretty mediocre, though, which it's going to be... a weighing for me of like I'm gonna get the game. I think that demo sold me on the game, but I think in terms of me enjoying the full game is going to be dependent on like I know I'm gonna love the customization, but I'm worried that the bosses and such will be a little bit too much of an enemy sponge. But like, maybe an example would be better. So the boss in the demo is this giant spider tank thing. Like you're tiny compared to it. And I tried playing it a few times and kept dying because it just took forever to kill. And I looked up on a forum, and then in the Google search I saw use enemy's gun to shoot enemy. And it turns out, and I went back and did this, like you just focus fire on this gun, it falls off. Your mech grabs this, you know, skyscraper-sized gun.
That's super cool.
And just blast the enemy. And now it's like, were there other parts of the enemy that I could have blown off and maybe used against it in that demo? I don't know.
That's cool.
But I think that has the potential to be a really cool game, but I suspect the combat's going to be somewhat mediocre besides the blow parts off of enemies and use them against them thing.
Right. Man, that sounds pretty cool. Next up was Rune Factory 4 and 5, like we talked about already. This will probably be me picking up Rune Factory 4 and then disappearing for about 200 hours in the wilderness, which is say goodbye to my family, but the Rune Factory on Switch is probably the best place they can put it. That I'm hoping that will do well. They also announced Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming out this summer. Still a Switch exclusive, which
is mind-blowing.
Yeah, is just baffling. They're not even doing like a timed exclusive wink sort of thing. You know, they're sort of like, no man, it comes out on Switch. That's where it's coming out. So we'll see.
It's Activision though, right? Like they gotta just
I think so.
They gotta just be holding their cards to their chest. Like they probably can't say it until
Yeah, like a year later it'll come out on everything.
Like between Activision and Disney, I mean those companies like money.
Right. Yeah, and especially, you know, I bet Ultimate Alliance 3 will probably come out whenever the next Avengers movie is coming out or something. They might come out with that and be like, hey, now this is out on PS4 and Xbox One, alright. That's sort of what I expect. Dragon Quest XI-S is coming to Switch this fall. This was the... so they had announced originally in, I think it was Japan, it was 3DS and PS4. In the US, it was PS4, PC, and Switch. We're not getting the 3DS version for obvious reasons. But originally it was just, hey, Dragon Quest XI is on Switch. But they've now announced that it's the S is for Switch, but it's also this sort of different definitive version, where thankfully some, if not all, not super clear, of the soundtrack is orchestrated, which, yay! Thank goodness. That's really great. They're adding additional stories and storylines, missions. And probably the craziest part is they announced a 16-bit mode, which I thought originally was funny because they showed a battle with, you know, the first person and it's just the enemies. But then they showed you can play the entire game in 16-bit, including the overworld and dungeons and everything. Yeah. So that's pretty cool, and Dragon Quest XI is really good.
That's the one you both played recently, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's the one that came out last year.
I may just wait for this version.
Yeah, I think if you haven't played it at this point, as long as it runs well on Switch, as long as it doesn't have, you know, giant frame rate drops or anything, this seems like probably the better version, and Square's being pretty coy with whether or not that stuff is going to come to other consoles, like the PS4 and PC. I'm assuming it will at some point, but you know, 6 months after this comes out. But this seems like the definitive version you would want to pick up.
I've only played one Dragon Quest, but you guys have been so glowing about this one that I'm...
Which one was the one you played?
Sentinels of the Starry Skies. I think that was 9.
Yeah, if you liked that one, you'll like 11. That's sort of like everything after 7. They're all kind of a similar experience. So if you liked that one, 11 will probably be right up your wheelhouse. Plus, it's portable, so you don't have to tie up your PS4 forever. You just put your Switch to sleep.
And that was the thing about 9 was like me and Susie got it on DS or 3DS, whatever it came out with.
It was the DS because I still have it and I like playing it, but a lot of people don't like that particular game, and a lot of it is because the game kind of doesn't have like a real main character and a real story. It just it kind of feels like a really like generic, choose your avatar sort of like, and you're just kind of walking through a story rather than being completely a part of it, which I liked it, but it's
very different.
It's a departure.
And I really like stories in that game. For that one, I think it just hit me with, I think I got caught in the fervor and bought the first game and then thought, I really would like to play this with Susie, and then we just sunk like a metric ton of hours into it.
Yep.
I played, the same thing. I did the same thing playing with another person because that game is fun with another person. It's like
yes, it's really good. Yeah. Last but not least, Zelda's not an RPG, but I'm really excited about my favorite Zelda game being getting remade. That's Zelda: Link's Awakening. It's my favorite Zelda game of all time, and this looks really good. And I'm glad Nintendo hasn't forgotten about it.
It's so cute. I don't understand why some people are angry about it.
It's one of those things where...
Do you not like happiness?
I think it's one of those things where Nintendo can't do anything right. For a lot of people, like, if they would have just remade Link's Awakening and just like cleaned up the pure 2D style that it was in, that wouldn't have been enough. You put it in 3D, people are gonna be mad. You do this super cute, like almost claymation style, and you faithfully recreate Link's Awakening. This for me is day one. I love this game so much, and it looks like they're doing right by a really weird, crazy, fantastic Zelda game. And
I love this aesthetic. It is.
Yeah, it's great.
This is amazing looking.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
I've never played it. If it comes out in a dead zone during the year, I may pick it up.
Yeah.
It looks good. And Link's Awakening is good already. Like, you already know it's a good game, so...
Yeah.
Really, it's just a matter of how it looks.
I mean, this is the Game Boy one, right?
Yep, the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. But this was one of the few portable Zelda games that wasn't made by Capcom. This was a Nintendo one. So Capcom also did a lot of really good Zelda games, which people forget. They did Story of Ages and Seasons, and they did Minish Cap.
Yeah, that's right, Minish Cap. That one, I never played Minish Cap, but I played
Minish Cap is so good. If you like Link's Awakening, you would really like Minish Cap.
I'll have to.
That's a really good game. Anyways, I could talk about Zelda forever, but let's not, because our episode is over. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to visit, you can do so at pickingupthepixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right-hand side of the page. Don't forget to go join our Patreon, patreon.com/E1M1, the ones are numbers. Get a bunch of cool behind-the-scenes stuff. This week's Outcast, which is our sort of stuff we're recording before we record. We'll have some of us talking about some stuff beforehand. Patreon.com/E1M1. The $5 tier is the one you want to get, and that's unlike a lot of shows, that's $5 a month, not an episode. So you get cool behind the scenes stuff and early access, and I get to fund this show because I don't have a paying job. So ease my trouble, ease my concerns. I think that's where can we find you, Musum?
You can check out all my music stuff at jbaudio.net or com. I don't even know where my own website is. That's great. You can also buy my music on .net. Okay. You can also buy my music on Bandcamp, iTunes, and find it on most streaming services. And that's it for me.
And Mina, how about you?
You can find me on Twitch or YouTube under Mina KO Rocket. And you can also find my mobile videos under Mobile Mina on YouTube.
And you can find all my shows at e1m1.com. Thank you so much for everyone for listening. Our adventure continues next month. Bye. Thanks everyone for hanging out and watching us live, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.